Part 2 of the morning show, a conversation which I recorded with a gentleman by the name of Bobby Livingston, a vice president with RR Auction. This would be one of the most respected organizations in the country when it comes to the selling of memorabilia and in particular autographs and so on. They take very seriously the responsibility of authenticating such items. They are about to put on the auction block on the 15th of March, so that's next week. A huge number of items related to the Civil War, to Abraham Lincoln, to Jefferson Davis, and so on, and some of them extremely rare and exceptionally interesting artifacts. Here is my conversation with Bobby Livingston explaining, first of all, about RR Auctions itself and about this very special event.
RR Auction has been holding monthly sales in auctions every month since 1980. So we've seen millions of signed pieces by all the presidents, Albert Einstein, Beatles, Marilyn Monroe, and that such. With this particular auction, we focused on the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, and we were able to put together an incredible collection of signed and unsigned materials that date from that period. We even have something that just knocks you out is a actual signed autographed photo of Abraham Lincoln as president. You know, one of those Brady photographs. You know, it was a CDV, a small version, but just to see an autographed photo of Abraham Lincoln is real stunning.
So tell us just in general, and then we'll in particular want to know this with some of the items that we're talking about with this particular auction. How do these items come to RR Auction?
Because we've been in business for over 30 years, we are considered the marketplace for this type of material. We've built our reputation on authenticity and authenticating handwriting. We've got 3 in-house experts on handwriting, as well as outside consultants. So people that come across this material, it eventually gets to our auction once it's on the marketplace.
So somebody who has this in their own possession, it makes sense for them to seek you out or a firm like you if they are interested in selling this, whatever it happens to be and however they happen to come into possession of it.
That's right. The world's biggest collectors of these items are our customers. So if you want to get really top dollar for your items, you should send it to an auction house like us or a few others out there that do specialize in this type of material because it's incredibly collectible, but it's a very niche audience.
Right. One of the reasons I think this interview is interesting timing, propitious timing, is because I'm sure you are aware of a news story, as many of our listeners are, recently in the state of Illinois, just to the south of us. A photograph long believed to have been an obscure photograph of Mary Todd Lincoln was proven not to be. And but this is something that had been, I think, given over to the Lincoln family many years ago, who in turn had solemnly bestowed it on maybe one of the museums down in Illinois, and it turned out just to all be false, to all be a hoax. It underscores the fact that authenticity is an important matter not to take for granted. It sounds like that you folks take authenticity very, very seriously. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you go about authenticating, for instance, an autograph or any kind of item which is going to be auctioned off? What is that process typically like?
Well, we do take it very seriously. You know, authenticity means everything, and when you've seen as many examples of handwriting as we've seen all the authentic examples, unquestionable, and then we've seen all the attempts at forgery, printing, laser copies, and that type of thing, and it's almost art as understanding what's fakery. But the other thing to consider, and especially with photographs and artifacts like the Mary Todd Lincoln photo, and we have a pair of Abraham Lincoln's eyeglasses in this auction, is the provenance. Where did it come from? And and can all that be backed up? Because most of these things have been in the marketplace for 150 years or near after a lot of the things that we have. So we can also trace back where things come from. So it's something that one of the other reasons we take it so serious is we, as an auction house, do something that most auction houses won't do, and we guarantee it to be authentic forever without time limit. So we have to do the due diligence here it's not, it's not a garage sale, in and out, and we're gone. We're going to be here, and we're going to back up the item forever. So we do the research to make sure that the things are authentic and the paperwork all is related, makes sense, and we can stand behind it.
Is the fact that so many exciting and innovative technologies have emerged in recent years made that process all the more challenging for you?
It has a bit. There is some scientific equipment for which you can look at signatures under a black light type situation, see if it's been altered or added. There's a famous case at the National Archives recently where someone changed the date on a Lincoln document to make it more an important document, which was the day of the assassination. They added the date later, and through modern science, they could see that was obviously altered because the difference in ink once under a microscope, that type of thing. But it is through experience and repetition that we found is the best way to authenticate, is to surround yourself with known exemplars of authentic signatures and handwriting, and it becomes quite easy or not as challenging to see forgery.
So this auction coming up now is, if I understand correctly, the first Civil War-themed auction which you have presented, with more than 450 different items on the auction block. Did you, in effect, send out the call? I mean, how is it that you have, under your auspices, this amazing array of items related to the Civil War?
We did send out the call because we've been in business for so long. We know where a lot of the premium material is. So we're able to put together a sale that's specific and focused and has enough items in it to warrant its own printed catalog, which we're proud to do. So we're in connection with a lot of the top collectors, and we went after things that haven't been on the marketplace for a very long time. Plus, we were able to pull in some things from clients that usually don't send us things because we had a special sale.
Among the really intriguing items is one that I think you've already briefly mentioned, eyeglasses of Abraham Lincoln himself. Tell us a bit about this.
Sure. There were several pairs of eyeglasses there was two pairs of eyeglasses in his pocket the night he was assassinated. So those are in museums and well accounted for. This particular pair of glasses came from his the grandson of Robert Todd Lincoln, who was given these by his grandmother, and these were checked out as far as the prescription to see if it matched the known prescriptions of Abraham Lincoln, and these went under a lot of scientific study, and they were confirmed to be of the same prescription. So they not only came from the Lincoln family themselves, but they matched up to what Lincoln's eyeglasses were known to be as far as the prescription. So coming with letters from the family, the Lincoln family themselves, and they're of that period, they're extremely valuable and trace right back to Lincoln. So the last pair, I think, on the market sold for well over $100,000. So we're excited about this particular pair of glasses.
Wow. Tell us about anything else that is directly related to Abraham Lincoln that you think would be of interest to our listeners.
Well, we have some really incredible letters. The one that I'm knocked out the most about is the letter from his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, where she's discussing the death of their son Willie, and she's writing to a friend, actually Willie's tutor, and the sheer heartbreak of what she's talking about, that her young boy has died. In her tears, she even says that, excuse how the letter is written in much haste and almost blotted by my tears. She says, we weep here. We can only remember that all tears are wiped away from their eyes and sorrow never enters there. It's very interesting because it's black bordered stationery. She talks about sending a photo of her deceased son, and we have that photo that she included with the letter. But it's also included is the envelope she mailed it in, and in those days, the President of the United States was given free postage by just signing his name instead of placing a stamp on the envelope. So the envelope itself is black bordered, but it's signed by Abraham Lincoln, where the stamp would go. So it makes a very powerful lot, because it was written just a few weeks after the Battle of Shiloh, when our whole country was heartbroken over the massacre of men at the Battle of Shiloh. So it has a very powerful presence for me, because of the black bordered and the sheer emotion that Mary Todd Lincoln expresses in the letter.
Wow. I know that one of the items that evidently is quite rare. Probably it would be good to have this explained, because I think the distinction might be lost on our listeners. It's call orders that were issued by the well-known General Stonewall Jackson. How is it that this item is something so out of the ordinary, so uncommon?
Well, first, battlefield communications typically didn't survive the war in great quantities, and here you have the South's greatest tactician. They terrorized the Union forces, and here this is one of his first moves after Bull Run, after he gets his nickname Stonewall Jackson. He's writing to General Ewell very specific instructions on how to flank the Union forces and where he wants them to go. And so it's a handwritten document from Stonewall Jackson that's crackling with action and maneuver. And so you have one of the greatest military tacticians providing an example of his genius on paper. It's just incredible, incredibly rare, and incredibly historically significant. So if you were collecting Confederate generals, Stonewall Jackson, or just great generals, this would be a great piece to have.
It also is important to acknowledge a letter that is part of this auction, which issues from the President of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis.
That's right. Davis, the one that I like, we have several from Davis, but the one that I enjoy the most is it's right after he's become president. It's right after the shots are fired at Sumter in South Carolina, and he's acknowledging South Carolina's expression of confidence in him as the president of the Confederacy. And, and South Carolina has such an infamous role as being the first state to secede from the Union. So, and the hotbed of the Confederacy, in a place where Sherman will make howl 4 years later for withdrawing from the Union. But this letter is particularly powerful because of its date and its early part of the Confederacy.
In our closing minutes, do you want to mention one or two other noteworthy items that are part of this auction?
Sure. One thing that is forgotten is some of the first photography, mass photography done in the United States was done during the Civil War. I think in Ken Burns' documentary, you see a lot of those great photos. We have an original photo taken by Alexander Gardner of the execution of the Lincoln conspirators, and it's a very powerful photo. It's an original photo, and those things you just don't see on the market. And that's extremely compelling for me. The other things that we have we actually have some weapons and swords related to the Civil War that I find fascinating. An actual Confederate revolver, it's gold plated, was made in England. Those type of things are very interesting, and we don't usually represent a lot of firearms or weapons.
So the people who likely are going to be customers for this auction, I suppose it is a bit of a mix, that some of them are collectors, probably high-powered collectors, I'm guessing, with relatively deep pockets, and that in other cases, are we talking about institutions, maybe museums, that are also perhaps going to be in on the bidding for a particular item that is of interest to them?
Our clients are typically collectors with I'd say deep pockets. Although we do have several things that will sell for $100 or $200. The problem with institutions and the auction format is we do this every month, and it's very hard for institutions to typically put the call out to their members to put together funding to purchase things from us. So typically, a collector will buy from us, and then eventually we'll donate it to an institution, type thing.
Very good. I suppose for you it's an interesting change of pace, although maybe not as dramatic a change of pace as we might think, but I have to think that this feels a lot different than auctioning off old handkerchiefs of Elvis Presley with his sweat stains on them. I mean, when you're talking about the eyeglasses of Abraham Lincoln, I mean, this has to be very exciting and satisfying, I should think.
It's extremely satisfying, and what a great part of my job personally is I get to learn and relearn the history that I love. Every month, there's something that pulls you in and excites you. And the great thing about reading the letters of these icons, these people that have been in history as these marble figures, to have them come alive back with their handwriting. You know, when Stonewall Jackson's maneuvering his troops, or Mary Todd Lincoln is mourning the death of her son, it brings them back to life, and that is very exciting for me.
The bidding will be from March 15th to March 22nd, and a preview of the auction is available online. You can go to www.rrauction.com. And Bobby Livingston, we appreciate you joining us today on The Morning Show. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.